What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I've been getting a lot of questions as of late since I started this channel about people who really want to get started, the best way to do it. I really don't know what to tell them. I got lucky and had a liquor store that kind of took me under and taught me the ropes and really taught me as I went through this journey. And I just figured, who better to teach you guys than the people who taught me? So today we're going to give you guys some tips and tricks from the retail side of things. And before we get started, do me a favor and drop a like, sub, and share. And I appreciate all the support thus far, but let's get into it.
All right, guys, so my name is Matt. I am the manager of Hamilton Liquor in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My guy Anthony, who is behind the camera right now and is the master of ceremonies on this channel, came by to me the other day and gave me an idea for a video that we might do together. The basic premise is some insight and some advice on the bourbon market, possibly how to score allocated bourbon. In this case, coming from the perspective of the guy on the other side of the counter, the retailer, which is me. I figure we can go ahead and just dig right into it now. Let's get started. All right, so I guess that the number one question that a lot of people will come to these types of channels to get answers to is tips and tricks on how to acquire those allocated bottles that have become more and more difficult to get in the bourbon market as it stands nowadays. I guess if I have a couple of insights or pieces of advice that I can give, the first would be to cast a wide net as far as a network of people. There's definitely routes you can go. You'll see a lot of Facebook groups and things like that, but honestly my recommendation is to have a network of people that you know personally instead of just random people on the internet who happen to share your interest in the hobby. On the brick and mortar side of things, it's my honest recommendation as a retailer that the best approach that you can make is to pick a store or maybe a couple of stores that are within your area that you can give your business to. It might be kind of weird or impersonal to say, but money really does talk. You don't have to be spending large amounts of money at any one establishment at any one time. Just showing up and knowing the people who work at the location, having them know you by name, knowing them by name, really does go a long way. It's just like any other endeavor. The relationships that you build with people that are able to help you in that endeavor are going to be what propel you forward and what ultimately get you to be where you want to be. So like I said, the curator of this channel, Anthony, is a good buddy of mine. He's somebody who I knew personally before we even started making this content. He's well known to everybody who works at the store that I manage, and they all know him well as well. There have been multiple times when I've helped him out in his quest for certain bourbons or helped him procure items that might be a little bit more difficult to procure just because he does spend his own money and his own time at the store, and he knows our people and we know him. The personal touch really does go a long way, and I think that that's the best piece of advice that I can give as far as trying to score allocated bourbon. And I did make a comment before where I kind of said that, you know, money talks more than anything. There are people that will come in that spend large amounts of money in one sitting, and you know, we will help those people out if they happen to be searching for a certain bottle of allocated bourbon on top of all the regular products that they're already buying. But that isn't necessarily always the case, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that by way of an anecdote. So just as an example, there are a lot of bottles of extremely limited seasonal releases that are going to be very, very difficult to get your hands on. Things like, you know, the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, Heaven Hills Old Fitzgerald Decanter Series, things like that. One of the most difficult to acquire bottles anywhere in the United States is going to be Old Forester's Birthday Bourbon. Just as an example of the rarity of this particular release, on any particular calendar year, this location will usually get multiple bottles of George T. Stagg, multiple bottles of Thomas Handy Sazerac, multiple bottles of each Old Fitzgerald release, multiple bottles of you know, Lot B 12 year, multiple bottles of Old Rip 10. So these are all extremely rare bottles that we will end up getting multiples of. Any calendar year we can only expect to get one single bottle of Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, and you have to keep that in mind for the remainder of the anecdote because it's important to remember, and I'll go ahead and continue with that now. So like I said, you don't necessarily have to be a whale or a big spender. The thing that really does matter is just kind of getting face time with the people who work at the location and just spending your money there, you know, spending your hard-earned money, even if it's in small amounts day after day. Circling back to the Old Forester Birthday Bourbon example, we have a customer. And I've known him for years, probably like 3-4 years now. The only thing that he ever really buys from us is 1/2 pint of Jägermeister every day. And this has been going on for about 3 years. I know this guy by name. He knows everyone that works at our store by name. He's never inquired about any kind of allocated bourbon. He's never bugged me about it. He's never asked about anything. He only just comes up to the counter, says, hey, what's up? We get him his bottle of his 1/2 pint of Jägermeister. He pays us. We kind of say, hey, what's up? And then he leaves. So this has been going on, you know, pretty much every day or every other day for like 3 years. We're very well acquainted. One day, kind of in the middle of the year, as the season for some of these slightly more allocated bourbons are approaching, he comes up and he inquires to me about Old Forester birthday bourbon. He says that he has a special occasion coming up and that he would like to get something special. Now, this guy's never bugged me about allocations before, never even bought whiskey from us before. He's only ever got his daily 1/2 pint of Jägermeister. But over the course of 3 years, he has spent a lot of money and a lot of time in our store just because he only shops with us. So when he does ask me about, for the very first time, about this one bottle of extremely rare allocated bourbon, I say, yes, I would love to sell that to you. Just take the time and spend your hard-earned money at a particular store that you would call your own store, where we know you and you know us, build relationships with people, and it will go a long way. Coming off of that example, a couple of things not to do. This is some advice that, you know, I can really give wholeheartedly, being on the receiving end of some of these more clumsy strategies that are really non-effective when it comes to securing these rare bottles. Do not cold call every store in your area looking for bottles of Pappy Van Winkle. I don't see your face, I don't know your name, I don't know if you've ever been in my store before. Even if I do have something that you're looking for in the back, the answer is going to be no, because I have to do what I can to make sure that those rare bottles get to my regular customers. And along the same lines, don't just pop in through the front door for 20 seconds in every store on your way home from work, ask about these bottles, and then say, okay, when we say no, we don't have them, and then walk right back out the front door. Don't do the shotgun approach when it comes to stores. You know, you really want to kind of focus on a store or a couple of stores where you have built these relationships or where you wish to build these relationships. And I promise that that strategy is going to bear more fruit than casting a wide net over every store in town and just cold calling people and popping in for 15-20 seconds and then heading right back out the front door. So alongside the whole idea of building relationships with stores and the people who work there, another little kind of piece of side advice that I can give is to go to the Google search bar and type in Bourbon Release Calendar. This is the calendar year 2023, just as an example. Bourbon Release Calendar 2023. If you do this, there are going to be multiple outlets that come up that are going to give you a very in-depth calendar of when certain releases are going to be released at what time of year. Basically what I'm trying to say is inform yourself so that you can be intelligent about the allocations that you're asking for. If you ask me for a bottle of BTAC in the middle of July, for example, in this market, in the Chattanooga market, most stores are going to get their Buffalo Trace Antique Collection sometime late November, early December. If you come in the middle of July and you ask me for something from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, obviously I train all my people to be very polite, and I'm very polite myself. I'm going to say, no, sir, or ma'am, I'm very sorry. This is not something that we have on hand right now. It's a seasonal release. It doesn't come out for about 6 months. But I'm going to be talking shit about you in my head as you walk out the door. I guess if I was going to round out the video and give one little extra piece of advice, it would be to know how to leverage your asking power. And that's kind of a vague statement, but I'm going to illustrate that statement with an anecdote, a true story. This is not something that's happened just once. This is actually something that's happened multiple times. And every time it happens, I kind of think to myself, man, this person would really be kicking themselves if they knew how badly they dropped the ball. So basically, someone comes into the store, right? And they come up to the front desk and they ask about a particular bottle of allocated bourbon. Maybe they kind of just swing around and they say, hey, do you have any Colonel Taylor single barrel on hand? I don't know this person. I don't really recognize them. So what I'm going to say, regardless of whether I actually do have it on hand, is going to be no. And that person kind of puts their hands in their pockets and they say, aw shucks, well darn. Then they go over to the scotch section and they pick out like 6 bottles of single malt scotch and their tab that they have on my counter ends up being like $750. And I'm thinking to myself, if you had done that and then asked for the bottle of allocated bourbon that you would have wanted, you would have gotten it. Because you spent so much money patronizing our establishment just in this one foul swoop, I would have felt very obliged to have gone and get you that bottle that you asked for had I have it on hand. But because I already told you no, I can't really show my cards here, because then you'll know that I was lying to you in the first place. So basically, if you know that you're going to go in, you're going to spend a decent amount of money on regular products that are sitting on the shelf, and you want to ask questions about an allocated bourbon or a couple bottles or whatever, save it until you've already made it clear that you're going to be spending money. Just a little simple thing that can kind of increase your odds if you know that you're going in to spend money on other things in the first place. All right, guys, so I guess that's my bit. I'm happy to be here helping Anthony out. Like, share, and subscribe if you like the content that you saw. As I said, my name is Matt. I work at Hamilton Liquor in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Cheers.